What is going on? My name is Joe Gerald. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about Facebook and Instagram for Catholic churches. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Joe Gerald. I run Parish Media Company, which is a company that basically focuses on growing Catholic churches, Catholic dioceses, Catholic religious orders using Facebook and Instagram. We generally use it to grow like the parish overall, get young families involved, but it works for a myriad of things. So what I want to do in this video is talk about how to use Facebook and Instagram, like brass tacks fundamentals at a Catholic church. If you're like the communications person at a Catholic church and you're posting just because that's what the pastor told you to do and you don't really know what you're doing, this is all you have to follow. Just watch this video, implement the frameworks. You will be better off than 99% of Catholic churches. And if you're wondering, this is what I implement in my clients, like with my clients. So like if a Catholic church signs on, I'm going to be doing this stuff. Okay. So to begin, we have to understand two frameworks, two concepts, and then I can get into the types of content to post. So our plan is going to be concept one, which is called giving and asking. And then we'll touch on concept two, and then we'll touch on the framework. Okay? I'll save that for when we get there. But the first thing we got to touch on is giving and asking. What I'm going to show you is the entire point of social media is to give and then to ask. Okay? I like to highlight this concept with a story actually about my conversion to the Catholic faith. So in 2020, I was working at a law firm, kind of searching, learning about the Catholic faith a little bit. But I met a friend at work, we'll call him John, and John was very Catholic, and we ended up becoming close friends. And one of the things John and I would do is we'd go and shoot five stand. If you've ever seen that, where you go pull, then you shoot. That's what John and I would go do after work sometimes. And one day, when John and I went to go shoot five stand, he paid for everything. Okay, so he paid for the bullets, or it was the shotgun shells, and then the beers afterwards. So we were doing that. This is on a Sunday, and then when we were all done, John said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to mass. Do you want to come with me?" Now, it wasn't something I had planned on doing on a Sunday and spending an hour in church because I wasn't religious yet. But John had paid for everything. And so simply because of that, I almost felt this, we'll call it compulsion or desire to say yes to him because he's done something nice for me. Now, to be clear, John's a good guy. He didn't do it so that I would say yes. It was simply a good act. And that was just the little push I needed to say yes. I ended up going to mass. And now, where are we? 6, 7 years later, and I'm running a Catholic company. I'm super Catholic. The point of the story is that when someone does something nice for you, it kind of makes it easier for you to say yes if they ask you to do something. Okay? Giving and asking. But the key thing is that you're not giving so that they say yes. You're simply being giving. You're being charitable. Okay? It's concept one, giving and asking. That is the whole point of social media. We're going to give a lot of helpful content, and then we're going to ask people to do things. But Joe, what do we need to ask people to do at a Catholic church? The things you need people to do. Volunteer for key ministries and roles. Come to events, right? Parish picnic, patronal feast day. You want people showing up to all the liturgies during the Paschal Triduum, all that stuff. Show up, volunteer. How about the big one? Give money. We need money. All right? That's it. Give, ask. If you just remember that from this video, you're in a good spot. Okay. Now comes the second concept, which I call the goodwill meter. Goodwill meter. The way I like to illustrate this concept is with a story about Mass. When we go to Mass, at least when I go to Mass, so I live in Visalia, California now. I used to live in Wisconsin. When I moved here, I started going to a church where they did 2 collection baskets. There would be like an offertory, right, with a collection basket would pass around. And then after communion, the ushers would get up and then they would pass collection baskets around a second time. And I felt a sense of frustration being asked a second time during one Mass. And I couldn't really put my finger on what I felt, but I'm like, why do they want more money right now? That's how I felt. And actually what I did after that happened a couple times is I talked to other parishioners and they sort of felt the same way, but they would say things like, well, the new church costs a lot of money. You know, that's what the money's for. Oh yeah, but you know, they're kind of struggling. So it was almost like they don't like it, but they're like, yeah, I understand why they're doing it. Almost like that. Why is that? Very important concept. If we could just ask, and we get good results, why don't we just do that? If the church got a bunch of money from that second round of collections, why not ask me 1,000 times? Church would be paid off tomorrow. Here's why. Asking has a cost, and the cost is goodwill. Very important. I'm gonna write that down. Asking costs goodwill. Very, very, very important. All right. Now, the second concept we're getting to is the goodwill meter. Okay. So I want you to imagine there's a meter and it fills up with goodwill when you give something to somebody, something with no strings attached. Okay. So let's say someone hands you a Chipotle burrito and you were super hungry and they didn't ask anything for it. They were just like, here, take this. You would feel goodwill towards them. They didn't ask for anything in return. It was just solving a problem for you. You'd be like, this person's great. When we give, it increases goodwill. Okay, so if we have a goodwill meter, we can imagine this, where we have this giant meter, and it fills up with goodwill, right? Now here's the thing. When we ask, we know from our mass story about 2 collection baskets, it decreases goodwill. And this kind of makes sense. When we ask people to do things, it kind of decreases goodwill. If you think about a door-to-door salesman, when they come to your door, why do we get so frustrated with them? We kind of like get rude to them, if you think about it. It's because they're asking and they've deposited no goodwill. They haven't given us anything, right? They're usually just like, hey, I sell this thing. Do you want it? And we get so frustrated. So a concept I like to think about is something called the resentment line. When you're here, there's a certain amount of goodwill that if you drop below that and people ask for something, you get a little pissed off. Okay, so I call this the resentment line. The whole goal of the church with its social media is give so much that you can just keep asking and you always stay above the resentment line. Okay? You can ask people for all kinds of things. Money, volunteering roles. We need altar servers. We need money for collection. Please donate. Please show up to this parish festival. Ask, ask, ask. Totally fine if you give enough. Okay? 2 really important concepts. Giving and asking and the goodwill meter. Now you might be asking yourself, what do we give? And how do we ask? That's what Facebook and Instagram for Catholic Churches is about. That's what I'm going to show you. Okay. There's actually only 4 posts you need to make on your organic social media that encompasses both of these concepts and acts as like an entire system for your church. Cool. Any questions? How could you have questions? You're watching a YouTube video. Silly me. All right. Let's go over the framework now. Cool. We understand give, ask, we understand the goodwill meter. So now let's go over what we should post. When we post, we can cycle it on a weekly cycle. So there's 4 types of posts that we would want to make. And we can just make those 4 every single week. Okay. So let's go over all 4. Number 1, homily clips. When we think about giving, right, we can't give Chipotle burritos to everyone. We can't do all these things. But what we can do is we can educate people for free on spiritual life. Kind of what the priest already does. These concepts are actually already embedded in the Catholic Church. Think about it. They give the homily and then they ask for the offertory, right? There's a reason for that. A homily is kind of the giving part of the Mass. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of theologians that would disagree with me, but you kind of know what I'm saying. Like, you're giving value here in the homily. So we want to clip that and show it on social media. But Joe, why don't we just show the whole homily? Well, how many of us are going to sit and watch a 12-minute video when scrolling Instagram? Probably won't. Well, oh. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the homily and clip it up into like 30 to 60-second videos. We're going to post those. And we're going to give value. I still want to keep the concepts here, actually. So I'm going to put give, ask, and then the goodwill meter, just so we don't lose what we're doing. Cool. Homily clips, give. Homily clips, increase goodwill. Good. We're setting up so we can ask. Okay, next thing. 2. What I call connection posts. Okay, so let's say on Monday you post a homily clip. On Wednesday we post a connection post. A connection post is what I call a post that creates an emotional connection with the parishioner, the viewer, and the parish. Okay, so this would be something like why the pastor wanted to become a priest, or what is the parish's vision for 2030. The reason you want connection posts is for another concept. I didn't want to overdo it with the first two and give you a third one. So we're going to go over a third one right now, what's called the know, like, and trust concept. Okay. Yes, we want to give so we can ask. But what actually makes them respond positively to the ask? Okay. So bear with me. Let's say someone gives you the burrito and you're happy, and then they ask you to help them do something. You probably won't get pissed off. Like, you're not frustrated. They didn't dip below the resentment line. But what makes you actually want to say yes? Well, that comes from a concept called know, like, and trust. So not only do we want to give, and we want that give to increase the goodwill, we want our content to get them to know, like, and trust us. Okay. Why, Joe? Why can't we just give and then ask? Why do we have to make sure the giving makes them know, like, and trust us? Because when a person knows, likes, and trusts an organization, they respond positively to their asks. I'm gonna run that back. When a person knows, likes, and trusts an organization, they respond positively to their asks. Does that make sense? If you knew your pastor and you liked your pastor and you trusted your pastor and he asked you to help him out with something, wouldn't you say yes? You'd be way more likely. Homily clips make people like us because it's free value. People like getting free value. Homily clips solve problems for people, right? They're spiritual advice for free. How nice. So, homily clips make people like the parish and the pastor or the associate pastor. So we covered like. Great. We still need know and trust. Connection. Now we're going to come back to connection posts. Connection posts are when they're telling the story, right? Developing an emotional connection. Which one does that cover? Knowing or trusting? It's knowing. You're sharing something personal about the parish or the pastor, and so it's going to make them know the parish. Know. Well, you already know where we're at. Number 3, it makes sense. Now we need a type of content that's going to make them trust the parish. Now, Joe, what do you mean? I trust my priest. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, but what I mean is, if you say there's a parish picnic and it's going to be super fun, how do they trust you? How do they know it's actually going to be fun? How do they know it's not going to be 10 old people and some hot dogs? Activity posts. Activity posts are posts of people around the parish at events, pictures showing what's going on and how fun everything is, okay? So just think, if you have a young adult event, you post pictures from the young adult event showing how fun things are. That proves that things are fun. It's proof. It's called social proof. People trust organizations that have social proof. Sweet. Doesn't that make sense? If you were a 24-year-old and your parish says they have a young adult event at like a mini golf thing, and you're like, yeah, I'm sure that's lame. And then 2 weeks later, you see a post from the event and it's like a carousel reel on Instagram of everyone having like a blast. Wouldn't you be more likely to come next time? You'd be like, oh, dang, they look like they had fun. Exactly. That gets them, let's just think, in 3 tiny posts, let's go over everything we've done. We've given to the audience. They get to receive value. They get to learn about their parish. They get to see fun things going on around the community, all for free. Give. We've increased the goodwill meter. We've also gotten the viewer to know us, to like us, and to trust us. All with these 3 posts. How cool. Now, what's the next thing? We got to ask. All right. You guys are actually pretty good at this already. Most parish Facebook and Instagram accounts I audit, it's just a graveyard of flyers. You guys do a lot of asking, not a lot of giving. So flyers, think the snippets you take from the bulletin, you plaster it on Facebook and Instagram, same concept. I can do a whole video on how to ask well, but just for this, the key with this one is I want you guys to understand the giving. By the time they see the flyer for the church picnic or the altar servers being needed, they're going to be responding way more positively because they've been given so much. They feel a sense to reciprocate the good deeds that were done for them. Okay, it's called the rule of reciprocity. People feel a sense of obligation to repay good deeds that were done for them. So that's Facebook and Instagram for Catholic churches. This is what I teach. I could do an entire video on how to ask. Spoiler alert, you can run advertisements on social media, like paid ads. That's how I recommend doing it. But if you're not going to open up that whole ball of wax, you can just ask by posting for free on your Facebook and Instagram feeds, which is what 99% of you are going to do. You're not going to learn Facebook's ad manager. So just post the flyers, right? You guys already do this, so you know what to do. These are the things that are probably new to you. Yes, how many clips take some editing? You'll have to find an editor or hire me and have my editors do it. Yes, you're going to have to take some nice photos and write nice captions that tell a story. A connection post means like it's a nice photo and then like the caption is telling a story. And yeah, you're going to have to tell people at parish events like, hey, take photos with people's faces, not like a picture of a statue. Be like, we had a blast. Like people's faces being like, that's what people want to see. Cool. Facebook and Instagram for Catholic churches. If you want help implementing this, I have a company that does this for dioceses, religious orders, and parishes. You can click the link in the bio and I'll see if I can help. Otherwise, you now have a game plan to implement this at your parish or religious organization. So I hope it was helpful. Take care. God bless.